Vavanai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma Vidvishavanai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Which is 7. Is 7? Oh my God. 9. Anyway, after I have done this, I have explained the whole vision. Then it will go fast. So, this verse, Upadana Karana. So that means, now it's talking, zooming in a little bit more, and you need to know a little bit more about Sarvajnaha Sarvashaktiman Ishvara. You may think that the story is over. There is a lot more to go about Ishvara. Okay? So that means any cause, when you say this is, first we have established that this is the cause of the universe from which every name and form has come. So this is the cause of the universe. So any cause, there are two kinds of causes. One is what we call nimitta karana, and the other one is called upadana karana. What it means is that nimitta karanam is, in a common term, you say maker, or if you want to use a little official language, you say efficient cause. And then material, which is what we call material cause. Simple example, right? Suppose a pot maker is making a pot, then there are two causes required for a pot maker to make a pot. So here the effect is what? Pot. The cause is what? Twofold. One is what? Efficient cause. The maker of the pot is the efficient cause, nimitta karanam, pot maker. But how did this pot maker make the pot? Not he imagined it and then it kind of manifested. That's called magic. This is not magic. So how did this pot maker make the pot? The pot maker needed some material in order to make the pot. So what is the material cause of this pot, which is in effect? If it is a clay pot, then it is clay. So any effect requires two kinds of causes. One is what we call efficient cause, and the other one is what we call material cause. Right? One is the maker and the other one is the material. The maker uses the material in order to produce an effect. Okay? Now, what is peculiar about this relationship? What is peculiar about this relationship is, suppose you have a pot with you right now. Is the pot maker stuck to it? So that means you sometimes don't even know who the pot maker is, right? Because he's not stuck to the pot. Once the pot is made, the maker of that given effect is not stuck to it. Otherwise, the maker of the chair will be stuck to it, the maker of everything will be stuck to it. But that's not the case, right? But what is the relationship between material cause and an effect?
It's ingrained in that.
Excellent. It's ingrained in that. What it means is the material cause cannot be separate from the effect. The maker can be separated, but the material cause cannot be separated from the effect. you will not find a pot without the material, which is the clay. If it is a plastic pot, that the environmentalist won't like it. Suppose it is there, but you can't separate it from plastic. Or if it's a glass pot, then you cannot separate it from the glass, which is the material cause. Okay? So that's the relationship. The maker can be separate from the effect, but the material cause cannot be separate from the effect. Okay? Now, so when we are talking about Sarvatyaha Sarvashaktiman Ishvara being the cause of the universe, which kind of cause are we talking about? Are we talking about the efficient cause, or are we talking about the material cause? What are we talking about?
Both.
Okay, why? First, okay. So, the maker of, okay, now anybody wants to give a reason why? Before I teach.
A reason for what?
Huh?
A reason for?
Based on what do you say that it is both the maker and the material cause? The Sarvajana.
Because otherwise the material has to be there before the whole manifestation comes in place. There is no other reason you can find. It must be both.
So the maker has the knowledge and has the power to make the clay, and the maker moves on after making the pot.
So, exactly. So now, what? Let's go. Your reason is right. Okay, but let me explain. And what he's saying is also right. Okay.
I think the way I look at it is that it's not that the maker moves on, but the maker is embedded, because every single thing that we see has got both the intelligence and the clay, so to speak.
Okay, so what is your point? What are you
I'm
saying?
saying that they're together. The maker
Excellent.
and the material is together.
Super, right? So both of you are saying the same thing. So excellent. Wow, these people are not smart people. Good. So what it means is, so let's first start with Rajoshik.
Black pen.
Let's little bit look into the maker, and then we will come to the material, and then we'll combine the two. Okay? So the maker, the pot maker, let's first start with pot, then we go to the whole universe. Okay? Now the pot maker must have two conditions before that maker makes the pot. So as Rajoshik said, must have the knowledge. Before the pot is born, the knowledge is in the brain already, right? Then you bring into manifestation that knowledge. So it requires knowledge, and it also requires power. Power to make it. Just knowledge means he is going on thinking about it, he can't manifest the pot, right? So therefore it requires this. This logic in Sanskrit it calls ghatasya karta ghatajnaha. The maker of the pot must have knowledge of the pot before the pot, the effect comes into manifestation. Okay? So, if you use this logic, Ishvara is the cause of what? Everything. So, sarvasya karta sarvajna. The maker of everything must be Sarvajnaha and Sarvashaktiman. This is what we call, when Shruti shows what it has to show, then it has to support it by logic. If it doesn't support it by logic, what will happen is, it will all become just loose statements, just saying things. Then you will have to say, oh, you have to believe everything that Vedas say because Veda is a pramana. And the larger emphasis you give on pramana, you try to impress people. That's not how pramana works. How does pramana work? It makes a statement. It makes you see that reality. Then it uses subsequent logic to strengthen it. Okay? So therefore, a sarvasya karta, sarvajnaha and sarvashaktiman. So that means the maker using one's knowledge and power creates the whole, manifests the whole universe. Now the next question is, what, just as the pot maker used the clay, what material did this all knowledge and all power use to manifest the universe? That's the second question, right? Because this every cause, you cannot have only one, any effect, you will have dual causes, maker and the material. So now the next question is, this all knowledge and all power, which material did it use to create this whole creation? What is creation? Creation is defined by time, space, and all the objects that exist within time and space. This is a definition of universe.
I just ask an understanding question.
Yes.
Do the both Sanskrit words you mentioned by the maker of everything means knowledge and power in English, or the...
So what? Okay.
Yeah.
So okay. So the pot maker must have pot knowledge and making a power to make pot, right? But now we are talking about cause of the whole universe. So if you use the same logic, what will you come to? The maker of everything must have all knowledge and all power, which is called Sarvajnaha Sarvashakti. Okay.
What would Sarv Shaktiman or all power mean? Skill set, willpower, or?
No, as I just told you, there is a capacity to manifest the smallest quark, and that quark to combine and manifest particle, combining that particles and manifesting atom. So this is what we call power to manifest, right? There is an organization in the universe which from the tiniest particles comes the whole vast universe.
But in case of a pot maker, would there be skill?
So yes, there is a skill because here is a mind. See, this is why you have to keep being very careful. Here, when you talk about a pot maker has a given mind. When we are talking about the all knowledge, it doesn't have a given mind. So that's why it is just knowledge and power. Okay? So now, what the next question is, this all knowledge and all power, what material did it use to make this whole vast universe, time, space and object?
From what I've learned before, it's self, because if it was anything else, there must be a cause for that, and therefore it would be separate from that, and that creates duality.
Okay, and that's similar to what Kal is saying. Kal is saying the same thing.
But that's where Brahman comes in.
Sorry?
That's where Brahman comes
Very
in.
good. Now this guy is like, he's figuring it all out. Wonderful. Right? So that means if you have a strong logic, you can actually see how, no matter which way you look, you actually end up with the same reality. Excellent, Jen. Very good. Okay. But we have to go a little bit step by step because we can't just, this human brain is such that if you are actually following what Shruti is saying, you can actually come to this. But we need to go little slowly and begin to give small reasons so that the mind can reach there. Right? You can copy. Okay. So now the argument is that in this case there are two different causes. The pot maker is using a material which is other than the pot maker, which is a clay, to make the universe. But in case of the beginning of the universe, where time is not there, space is not there, any object is not there, there cannot be any material. Right? So there cannot be any clay equivalent, right? So there cannot be any object by definition. Because as Shona was trying to show with logic, what was she trying to say? Suppose you postulate that there must be some material. So that postulation will run into a problem. What kind of problem? If there is some material, already there is time, already there is space, and within that there is one object. But what we are talking about is, this is yet to come. No, don't throw words, please. I'm right now talking about Ishvara. Right? So I'm not yet talking about awareness. We are talking about all knowledge and all power. What kind of cause it is? Is it the maker or it is the material? Are you getting what we are talking about? We are right now not talking about Brahman. We are talking about who? Ishvara. Everybody looks very... Is it clear?
Yes.
See, please don't throw things like that, because what will happen is, these two words, they are right answers for everything. Brahman and Ishvara. But if you keep mixing the two, what will happen? You can't go wrong with these two answers because it pervades everything, right? But the thing is, the buddhi cannot just use them loosely and just start talking about it. What we are actually now talking about is what? Sarvagnaha, Sarvashaktiman, Ishvara, the cause of the universe. And what are we looking into? What kind of cause it is, right? So that means there is an effect called Jagat, time, space and object universe. So now we are trying to find out, any effect will have twofold causes. What are the twofold causes? Maker and material. So now we are asking, what kind of cause is this Sarvajnaha, Sarvashaktiman, Ishvara is? Is it the maker, or it is the material, or it is both? Right? So how do you even begin to inquire into it? So you start with a simple logic. You take not the whole universe, you take one simple effect called the pot. And what do? You try to identify two causes for that effect. One is what? The maker, and the other one is the material. Right? So you say, what is the cause of the pot? The pot maker, and the effect, the material cause is the clay. Then what we say is, the pot maker must have two things. Follow the logics. If you don't follow the logics, you'll just go from here to there, and buddhi just takes you from here to there, which doesn't have any connections. Right? So, the pot maker must have knowledge and power. So if Ishvara is the maker of this whole universe, which includes time, space and object, what kind of knowledge and power it must have? It must have all knowledge and all power. Sarvajnaha and Sarvashaktiman. The next question is, this Sarvajnaha, Sarvashaktiman, what material did it use in order to manifest the universe? Then what we said is, in this case, two separate causes are possible because there is already a creation. You understand? But in this case, it is not possible because the creation is yet to come. Right? So therefore, it is yet to come, and therefore it has to be also the material cause. So that means Sarvajnaha and Sarvashaktiman Ishvara is both the maker and the material cause. You understand? Material cause of the universe. It cannot be otherwise.
Can I check I have this right?
Yes, please. Yeah, very good.
So the material cause of the universe has to be the same as the maker. Otherwise there needs to be some other which would be within time and space, which presupposes their existence, and there would need to be then a maker of those.
Excellent. So that means what she's saying is absolutely right. Suppose you say that there was some already, then what will happen is there is an infinite regression, right? Infinite regression, because there is also that. So who is the cause of that material? Then there is a yet another Ishvara, then there is a yet another Ishvara, and that it will go into infinite regression. Correct. Perfect. Okay.
Sorry, but then because before you say any effect, has two full causes, but then this only counts if there's already material or if there's already something existing, and before it's only the maker who's making and material in the same time.
I don't know. So can you rephrase? I don't understand what you're saying.
Before, when we were with the...
What are you trying to say first, you tell me? What exact, are you reiterating what I'm saying? Are you rephrasing what I'm saying? Or you're asking me question? What exactly it is?
Well, I heard the sentence of...
No, is it a question or
Yeah,
is it
it's a question.
It's a question.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm getting clear about it, because I had the sentence that you said any effect has two full causes.
Yes.
But this is only true if there's already something manifested or some material.
No,
Because
no. Any effect must have two causes. It's not only true if there is already time, space in it. Any effect you will have must have two causes. What are the two causes? Maker and material. What is the possibility? There are two separate causes if it is within the universe. But it cannot be two separate causes if it is... Do you understand? Yeah? So that is... Okay, good. So good.
Now, to put it differently, in our common experience of how the things work in the world, there are two causes.
In everything there are two causes.
Yeah,
See,
but-
even within the world, for example, you will find the example of two causes being one also. Which one? Dream example. You are the maker and you are also the material of your dream world. Right? So that means if you look at the world, you will at times have two separate causes, which is what you need both causes in every case. There is no effect without these two causes. The question is, are they two separate or are they two one? If you look at things in this world, both possibilities are there. In one case, in the example of pot, there are two separate causes, right? The maker is separate from the material. But in the example of the dream, you have both causes, but both are you, same, right? Now, there is another example which is a famous example which is given by Shruti, and that is spider, right? Spider and the web. That is also the maker and the material cause is the same. But in the case of the whole creation, both possibilities are not there. I mean, both causes have to be there, but you can't have two possibilities. Either they are separate or they are one. Do you understand? Because there is yet any material. Material is not there. If you presuppose material, it will lead to infinite regression. Okay? Is it clear?
Practically speaking, for example, if a child misbehaves,
No, this has got nothing.
no, but I want to,
Please.
I need to understand. When he misbehaves, the cause of his misbehavior, how do you link it? Because there is cause, it's not only in objects, it's also in actions. Does it applies also for action or only for objects?
We are talking about objects, no?
So this is only for objects, not for us. This doesn't apply to actions.
A child misbehaves because the mind has a certain way of behaving, which is, so he's
this
not
doesn't
producing
apply.
something, right?
Okay, this is only for objects.
This is, we are talking about
Okay.
time, space and object universe, right? Within that what happens? So that there are a lot of other causes like mental causes and things like that, right? Okay. So therefore, the material, in this case, it can't be separate, right? So that means Sarvajnaha Sarvashaktiman Ishvara is both the maker and the material cause of the universe. Is it clear? Okay. Now, the next question is that as I had just shown you that the pot maker can be away from the pot, but can the material cause be away from the effect? No. So if Ishvara is the Upadana Karana, this is called Upadana Karana. This is what the verse is talking about. If Ishvara is Upadana Karana, which is the material cause of the universe, you can say, so what? Hey, it has a big implication. It cannot be separate from the universe. That is, the logical deduction leads to a huge conclusion. So that means if it is a material cause of the universe, you cannot postulate an Ishvara who is outside and created the universe. So material cause pervades the creation, the effect. So if creation is the effect and if Ishvara is the material cause of the creation, Ishvara has to be everywhere. Logically. Right? So that means Ishvara is everywhere because it is both efficient and the material cause of the universe. Okay? Now, you use the Shruti Pramana. Now that is something called we arrive at through logic. Now what do? We use again the Shruti Pramana to look into anything in this universe and you will find it as what? Manifestation of this knowledge and power that I just showed you. So do you see how we reconcile? We first show you that everything is knowledge and power. Then we use logic and then we come back to demonstration. That now look, anything that you find in this universe, can you not, whether it is a rock or it is the sun or it is moon or your physical body, you will, on one hand you find the form, but actually if you look at it from these the words of Pramana, you will see it as knowledge and power. So that means all that is here is this what? Upadana. So therefore, Ishvara is not only Nimitta Karana, but it is also the Upadana Karana of the universe. Okay? Upadane Akhiladhare Jaganti Parameshware Sargasthiti Layam Yanti. Okay? So that means what? The cause of everything. What happens? Every form arises from it. Every form is sustained by it. And every form is destroyed in it. You understand that? So therefore, dissolves. Like what? Like the bubbles in the waters of the ocean. Ocean is always there. But what happens? The bubbles come from the ocean. They are sustained by the ocean. And they go back into the ocean. Understand? So that means the forms themselves, what? Come into being in this all knowledge and all power. Who is born? What form that person has? What kind of mental makeup that person has? How long that person is going to live? What kind of general trajectory of life the person is going to have? Where is it all coming from? Excellent. Excellent. Right? So this is what? Anything that you take. So that means what? It's all part of the program, but within that program there is infinite variation. So that means, suppose you say a dog, you have cat. You have cat?
Yes.
What is the average? She's an amazing cat. She's some E.T. So really, she's looking and she's so sharp and moves everywhere. Okay. So what is the average age of cat? 8. Okay. Now, so that means, how is it that the human is programmed to live for 80 to 100 years, whereas a cat is programmed to live for approximately 8 years? But each cat lives only for 8 years sharp and goes? No. Infinite variations. This is what you say, that there are certain general patterns. Right? Dog has this much life. Human beings have that much life. But within that, infinite variations. All work of Ishvara. Wonderful. So that means wherever you see, you will see what? Ishvara. Every bubble arises from, every bubble here stands for forms. Every forms arise from Ishvara. It's sustained by Ishvara's laws and it goes back into Ishvara. This is why why do the astrologers, they will look when you were born, and what they will try to do is what? Deduct something. It's not cause and effect, but it is correlations. That why you are born at that time, this zodiac sign, today, right? This, as Surya was explaining, the person who was performing the ritual explains, I'm from this gotra, I'm from this lineage. I was born during this nakshatra. And I was born during this Rashi. It's not just considered random, it's all part of Ishvara's design. That's what gives you your uniqueness.
Maybe just one question there. So if you have all knowledge and all power,
yes,
and you are also the creator and you are the material, that one.
Are you talking about you means you, or are you talking about Ishvara?
I'm talking about me as me.
You as you.
You as.
Okay.
So then, can I also not create a way that there is immortality?
Okay. So that means, see, this is all knowledge and all power, but so it will come. You have come with a given finite mind. And that mind is also what it can do and what it cannot do is also within this program. But there are a lot of possibilities. As I said, please don't think Ishvara is all fixed. It is in form of potentials. So that means you can collapse certain potentials. They are available for you to collapse. This is how we've made so many discoveries, right? This is how the world has moved so much in terms of knowledge base, in terms of medical discoveries, right? So you can do a lot of things, but you can't become this whole. I mean, in that sense, right? You can't hold knowledge of all the different, biology and physics and in one given mind for time which is infinity.
So you may have all the knowledge, but since you work with the laws prevailing, hence you have to sort of succumb to it, is it?
So that means you have to learn to work with the laws. And within working with laws, there are lots of possibilities. So just give you a simple example. So there is a law of gravity that you didn't create. It's already there. That is part of Ishvara's design, right? So now, but a human mind is capable of understanding that law of gravity. And with that understanding of law of gravity, what can a human mind do? Number of things. The first simplest thing is what? That I will not jump because I know that I will. The second thing that I can do is, suppose I have to throw this pen to you. I know there is a law of gravity, so what will I do? I will choose the force and the direction in a way that I will send it to you. So that means that is called working with laws of gravity. The third thing that I can do is what? Send rocket to space, but within the laws of gravity. This is what we call a genius mind, the human ingenuity. That means it has advanced brain. It can understand the laws and it can find very creative ways to work with the laws. Every discovery is like that. This whole IT revolution. How did it come? How old is this IT revolution? What, 90s it was there? All this internet and all this mobile and this WhatsApp and whatever, instantaneous. I used to live in the US and in 90s, and on TV they used to show, and they were talking about information superhighway. And what they were talking about is actually that, hey, any knowledge which is produced in any part of the world is going to be made instantaneously available where the rest of the world. It seemed like such a crazy program. I said, what kind of highway is this that they're going to build? I couldn't even conceive what they were talking about. And soon came this whole internet age, and now what? On Guru Purnima, what do people do? we bow to Google Guru. Why? Because you type anything and then what? So many things will come. Right? So that means knowledge, the information is passing what? Is here, it's produced, it's available instantaneously. This is human genius, but how did it work? Understanding the laws. That is Ishvara. Don't mistake that, right? If you start mistaking it, then what happens? It becomes problematic. So that means there are potentialities. This is why human brain is a privilege. It is extremely advanced brain. It can solve extremely complex problems because why? It has been given this amazing capacity. Reasoning, deduction, inference, logic, and you can understand so much. Even emotional intelligence, you can understand so much about human behaviors. In so many areas, art forms, it is amazing brain. Architecture is like mind-boggling. So, but it cannot operate, it can't create laws. It can operate within the laws. So that is the difference between Ishvara and the individual. Now the same brain can either know many things about the world, and the same brain can be used what? You can use the pramana to know the true nature of I and true nature of the whole universe. That also is given as a possibility for a human brain. But it also operates within Ishvara's order. You need a pramana without which you can't figure it out. You have to make yourself eligible to use this pramana. This is all within Ishvara's order. You understand? So there are two different things that we are talking about. Yeah. So that's why you can't mistake a whale for the ocean. You can't, because there is a difference. Right? You can't just say, oh, everything is water. There is a difference in the form. One is limited, the other one is in which every form is contained. But itself is free from the forms. So that's why, as the ocean, the forms come and go, the waves come and go. Does it deplete the ocean? No. The new waves come. Does it make it fuller? No. It always is full. This all knowledge and all power. Please don't think of it as a finite intelligence. That's why a lot of people say, I don't want to bother Ishvara with my request. Hey, it's not some finite source that if I take, others will not take. It's infinite source. Use it well. This, you make Ishvara into some uncle, some limited, oh, he's busy with other things, so I don't want to bother him. Infinite source, infinite potentialities for you to collapse. But in order to collapse, you have to take initiatives. But not just random initiatives, intelligent initiatives. Right? So that means, so this is what we call, in that completeness, every form comes and it goes. Does it deplete Ishvara, Sarvajnaha and Sarvashaktiman? No. The coming of forms and going of forms doesn't deplete it. Okay. Now, next verse.
Neema,
Yes.
one clarification. So the Nimitta Karana doesn't need to be a person, right?
Yeah. In this case, it's not a person, no? As we saw. See, person, just think, person is what? Time, space and person means one person. It will become an object. When we are talking about the cause of the universe, it cannot be a person. Why cannot it be a person? Because if it was one person, it cannot be this person. You are limiting. When you call it a person, you are limiting Ishvara. Do you understand? Because if it is a person, that person, I am a different person. I can't call myself Ishvara.
No, I'm asking within the time space.
So So that means exactly every person is within time and space, and we are talking about the cause of time and space and persons. So that itself cannot be a person. Do you understand? Person means finite. Person means one person is different from another person, and each person exists in time and space. So we are not talking about that. Persons
What I
exist.
asked was, could it be a force?
Sorry?
Within a time and space, could a force be a maker?
Sorry?
Force.
So this is what, as I just showed you, please follow what I am saying. The atoms, how do they become molecules? But these atoms also become molecules, and here it will become rock. Itself is not any given thing, it's just knowledge and power. Don't try to imagine something else other than definition. If you go beyond definition, what happens? You add your own imagination to it. You attribute more things than what the definitions give. That means your subjectivity begins to walk in there, because you are seeing something else other than just knowledge and power. You are imagining a person, you are imagining this, you are imagining this. This is what we call a human mind, is inability to capture what the words are conveying. When I show you, it gets involved with everything. If itself had changed, it can't get involved with everything. In the process of making, from atoms to from particles to atoms, if itself had become atom, it can't go further to become molecule, to make molecules. Do you understand? Just simple logic. For it to continue every chain, it has to be, if at any given point it becomes one thing, then it can become another. Simple logic. So Satya-Mithya relationship, yes, can you explain? Because don't just see, Satya-Mithya is true for so many things. But you have to, Brahman, Ishvara, Satya-Mithya, most likely it is going to be right. But you have to. But you need to have right reasons. Otherwise what will happen? For everything you'll throw in 3 words and you're fine. But that's not called understanding. Right? What does it mean? Why are you using it here? What does it convey to you? All that you have to make it clear. Right? So, one, yeah, try. Very good, try.
Yeah, because you gave the example that if the particle would become if Ishvara would come on the level of particles or atoms, it would be within the Satya-Mithya relation, because then, as we saw before, the Satya-Mithya relation is always depending to the one above or below, and so if Ishvara would be within, it would change from Satya to Mithya. From an independent to a dependent, how do you say, reality? Yeah.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I see what you mean. Yes. Okay, that's very good. Excellent. Did you understand what she's saying? Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm not
okay. Vima, you understood, you explain.
What she's saying is that if, as Neema said, that Ishvara cannot, it remains separate from, say if the particles cannot become atoms, an atom become molecule, if Ishvara becomes either of any of that on the chain. Because once it becomes something, it becomes mithya, it doesn't remain satyam anymore. So it loses. So then that satya mithya, that's how, I think that's what we're
Take pot and clay and it will be very simple,
very nice.
what you say. See, if clay really turns and becomes into a pot,
then
and it changes, then it cannot be then the truth of so many different pots, or a jar, or a teacup, or whatever. This is what you mean? So it's a nice
Very nice. Very good. Excellent. I didn't understand initially, but it is
Yeah, I'm
very
sorry,
good.
I'm not
No,
speaking
no, you don't have to be sorry. It is I who didn't understand. You don't have to be sorry. Okay. No, very good. If you didn't understand, don't worry.
See, the whole key here is that when you say the clay becomes the pot, or manifests into a pot, it is not really becoming a pot. Staying as clay, it appears as though in the form of a pot. This is the crux of the whole thing. Otherwise you have a problem, right?
See, using the same example, suppose if the clay had become pot, right? Already become pot. Then after destruction, what you will still find pot, and you can't make that clay into something else. Right? So the clay always remains clay, but it does give an appearance of pot. In the process of doing that, if itself became the pot, what will happen? All these other possibilities are not there. So once one form goes, other form cannot come. Do you understand? Itself is free from all forms, and that's why it can keep producing new and new and newer and newer forms. If it became one finite form, once that is gone, what? Ishvara is out.
And if it became one form, all other forms will have to have that form.
Exactly.
Yes.
Superb.
Excellent.
Superb. Use these logics. Excellent. They are what we call Shruti Sammata logic. Shruti Sammata logic means you try to understand what if you postulate any other way, right, you will get into lots of logical problems. This is called postulation. Postulation means you don't just try to, this is what I was trying to tell Andre yesterday. That's a good method to understand Vedanta. What you say, suppose I don't go along with this, and suppose I think that Ishvara is changing to become this. What are the logical problems I will get into? These are all the logical problems that you get into. So what will happen is your mind will not keep going and saying, but why should I accept this? Do you understand? Because you are using your own logic to create yet another scenario. Suppose this is not true and this is true. What happens? It will break down logically at multiple levels. Is it clear? That's a good way to make your understanding better. Good.
What do you say? I didn't hear.
Yeah.
So, for example, if clay becomes pot, and if an object, if the material takes the form, and then how to say it like this? If Ishvara takes the, let's say, the form, it's modified to take the form, then everything that is contained within Ishvara will have to take that form because it's Ishvara. So, relating to clay pot, it's like.
So, yeah, if you want to use what he's saying in terms of logic, so what you have to say is, if it is everything, intrinsically it has to be free from everything. Because if it was one thing, it can't become the other thing. Do you understand? This is called logic.
Then it cannot be limitless.
For it to be, exactly. For it to be everything, it has to be essentially free from everything. Because suppose I become Shona, then I can't become Priya. And I have to be free, I have to make Shona, but have to be free from being Shona to make Priya.
And if Ishvara takes an attribute, then all other objects within Ishvara will have that attribute.
Excellent. So what that means is, suppose in the process of making Shona, Ishvara became Shona. When Ishvara makes Priya, there will be Shona there. Do you understand? This is what he is saying.
In simpler terms, can we say that clay does not become the pot, but the clay manifests itself in the form of a pot?
Excellent. Excellent. Superb. The clay doesn't become pot, it manifests as pot. Because there is a pot. You can't deny the existence of pot. But there is no change that clay has undergone intrinsically to become pot. Super. This is why before the pot, clay was there. While there is pot, clay is there. After the pot is gone, clay is there. And the same the same clay can be used to create yet another form completely different from pot. Because the clay has never become pot. Good.
I'm a little don't even know how to ask it, but in the clay and pot example, the potter is always, the efficient cause is not part of, it doesn't stick to the final thing, right? The pot. The potter is always separate. But in this case, Ishvara is the material and efficient. So what's going on
Excellent.
there?
So that means, very good. Whether you, very good. That's a good question. What are the implications? What she is asking is, what is the implication of Ishvara being the maker and material? Right now, what we have seen is, we've emphasized Ishvara as the material cause, right? It's making Sita Devi. How is it making Sita Devi? By putting so many cells together, right, into different organs, and different organs into a given form, right? This is how Ishvara is operating. So that means when I look at Sita Devi, there is a form called Sita Devi. But if I actually little bit look into what is Sita Devi, I'll find nothing but knowledge and knowledge and knowledge, which is making every organ of hers what it is, right? So therefore, this is what we call is material. But this is also what we call, the maker means what? That the whole time, space and object universe. Now what we did, we looked at one object and we looked at the material cause. You understand? But now this whole thing as such, when you say Ishvara is the maker, so that means in time Ishvara's knowledge and power, the time itself is manifestation of Ishvara's knowledge and power. Space itself is manifestation of Ishvara's knowledge and power. And every object in this universe, it's not only the material cause, but it's a manifestation of Ishvara's knowledge and power. The other way of looking at the maker is in form of all the intelligent laws which make what? Every object and the organization what it is. So that means if you look at Ishvara from the standpoint of maker, you will see it as what? All the intelligent laws. When you see it in terms of material cause, you will see these laws applied to a given form.
Manifestation.
Exactly. So that means even without Sita Devi, biological laws are there, right? But the biological laws manifested in Sita Devi will become what? We are looking at it from the material cause. But the overall causes and laws of the universe not contained in any human being is what we call the maker of the universe, within which lots of different forms will be created, and the material that is used in order to create that form is the same knowledge and power.
Just one question, to the point that Shona mentioned, and you gave an answer that Shona cannot be replicated in Kriya. If I just take that example forward and say that, this whole human cloning that we're trying to do, where we're trying to recreate, we've got Dolly the sheep. Do you call it material or do you call it maker? How does that fit into this overall thing that you're...
So what we are doing is that
We're trying to
the
create
genes
something.
are given, right? So I'm the doer, right? In this case, the gene is what? The gene is something which is, I didn't create, but and I'm using my brain. And what am I doing? I'm trying to manipulate it so that it can give life or whatever. So that means that is a human being is what using a given material and using one's intelligence to reprogram it or whatever it is.
So that's more a material?
That is, yeah. So in that case, yeah.
But even if we get to the point where we can create genes themselves, still we're using the laws. Because in order to create genes laws, and we're using the intelligence, which is, you could say, the maker, the all in touch, but also material. So it's like
Now I'm just trying to get into whether it fits into a material or a maker. Which bucket does it fit in? See, eventually it's knowledge and power. I don't think there is any getting away. And you are within the frame of laws. That's also given. But where do you fit in? Is it creating a material which is either your heart or a person, or is it the maker itself where you are, you've got knowledge to build something? I'm just trying to get that answer.
What Rajshekar was calling force is basically the intelligent laws. The efficient cause in that case is intelligent laws.
So exactly. So when you look at it from the standpoint of the maker, you look at it as what? All the laws.
For example, high tide, for example, there is phenomenal laws that are
So that includes biological laws, that includes physical laws, it includes all the laws. But with so this maker, and then there is a form created, human. Within this human being, right, when you look into the material cause of the human being, you will find these overall laws contained here. Do you understand? So your body, there are physiological laws out there, but your body is subject to physiological laws which produce your physiology. And there is a child who is born, and that child is also carrying the laws of physiology within that child. Do you understand? But the laws are not restricted here. Laws are everywhere. But every form that is going to be born is going to contain all those laws in its unique way. Do you understand? So, yes.
I have a question about manifestation and becoming, because if I understand it correct, like manifestation is like more dynamic, so it takes on a form, but it also, after it takes on that form, it goes away, and becoming is really like...
Goes away? No. Ishvara doesn't go away anywhere.
No, but if I make only manifestation like the definition of it, then a definition of manifestation is that it comes and it goes, isn't it?
Okay. So no, then what you're talking about is the manifestation are the forms. So the forms come and go. Ishvara doesn't come and go.
No, that's right.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to contradict it with becoming. If something becomes something, then it sticks to what it becomes, and it cannot become something else. But when it is manifesting as a particular form, then it can also, how do you say it?
Manifest as something else.
Yeah, unmanifest, yeah.
Yeah, I mean that is true. This is the nature of Ishvara, that every form becomes manifest. The laws are always there, right? Please understand. So when you're talking about Ishvara as nimitta karana, so when you go, suppose you carry within you physiological laws. Suppose when you go, the physiological laws are not going to go with you. You understand? But what is going to go is one entity. Then a new entity is born. What happens? Physiological laws manifest in that entity. So the laws will always remain. Then what? As the new forms come, they will contain those laws and they will be subject to those laws. Their interactions will be subject to those laws. Then there is a whole big scenario where the whole universe will be unmanifest. In that case, what will remain? All knowledge and all power in unmanifest form. But we will see that later. Right now we haven't talked about it. right? We haven't yet talked about it. So let's not add things because as it is, it's a little complex. If you add things, it becomes even further complex. So let's stay with this. And yes, now please don't hesitate. Ask.
Is it right to say that ideas we develop are also what we had before with the maker and the material is the same? If you have an idea, a new idea, do something, anything.
Yeah.
So then we can say the maker and the material is the same in this moment because I produce that idea in my brain.
I see what you mean. Yeah, I mean, till it is manifested externally.
So you take a painter, he has an idea, and it stays at the level of idea, but if he wants to manifest it outside,
then it requires
a manifestation.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Or like a philosophical idea.
Okay.
If it's in the brain, if it's not written down or whatever, if it's in
It's
the
gone with
brain,
you.
then
maker
the
material
maker
is the same.
But once you manifest it, in this case, suppose you are producing a painting, then you need a paper, you need a pen. So there you need other material, right? So when it comes out of your brain in form of an object, you need another cause, material cause.
So you use idea as knowledge. It's the same.
So what Rajshek was saying that
Rajshekar is not here.
Rajshek.
And this is Rajoshek.
Sorry. Rajashek is saying that the cells that develop and then they create a human being out of it. With biologically through genes, you develop a human being. So you're material or you're or efficient. Which one? So isn't the same as a pot and a pot maker? Isn't it identical?
Exactly. Yeah.
There's no difference, right? So why was your question?
So I was trying to understand that, am I the maker? Because somebody would have created that whole cloning. So am I the maker?
Or you're cloned. So once you're cloned, are you...
Or is it the material? Because what I see as an object is either the sheep or a part of the body. So I was trying to understand, is it the maker or the material?
So you're referring to
Because manifestation, if I really look at it from what I understand, is the outcome. And the outcome is either the sheep or the organ which has been cloned, right? So therefore I would imagine it's going to be more the material than the maker. So just clarifying.
It's a material.
Yeah.
It's material, yeah.
Yeah. So what she's saying is in some ways true. That I mean, if
thinking
you
is
think
not
about it,
different,
it is. Okay. So Surya is reminding me that we all have to go for. Okay. Now, did you understand this verse 8? Yeah. So that that is the main thing. Did you? Let's go back here and see what. Upadana. So what Ishvara is the Upadana Karanam. And because it is an Upadana Karanam, it is everywhere. And because if it is everywhere, every form is what? Born of it, is sustained by it and goes back to it. Like what? Every drop is born from the ocean, is sustained by the ocean and goes back into the ocean. Right? So what is the relationship? The bubble or whatever it is, right? That the bubble is part of the ocean, but ocean doesn't become the bubble. Right? If it becomes a bubble, then what? Once that bubble is gone, what will happen? The ocean will.
This is not possible.
It's not possible.
So you saw? Is it clear? Okay. We'll see now. Maya is not yet. Next verse is Maya. So I will talk about it tomorrow. Okay? Because it's a big topic again.
Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.